from St. Xavier's College. I am currently doing masters. I'm in my second year. Next slide. Uh, just नहीं नहीं उसके ऊपर outline. So this is the basic outline that I'll be following for the next approximately 10 minutes. We'll begin with a brief introduction, followed by what studies have already been done in the field, followed by my case study, which is that of CSMVS, and the proposed guided to a programming model that is discussed in my paper, and I'll conclude and I'll just walk through the bibliography. Next slide. So, new museology is a contemporary discourse that has emerged around the social and political roles of museums, which encourages new communications and new styles of expression in contrast to the classical collection-centric models that museums have had followed. So making a museum that was built in the 19th and 20th centuries relevant for the audiences of the 21st century is a difficult task. Museums in general do not and often cannot drastically change the collections that they house. And that leaves only the interpretation part as the main mode of sustaining the interest of the public and keeping the museums relevant in the ever-changing socio-cultural backdrop. And historically, the task of museum interpretation fell under the purview of the responsibilities of a museum curator. But since the past few years, a new profession has emerged within museum spaces, that of museum guiding. But within the Indian scenario, guided tours are often seen as supplementary services, which leads them to not receiving the due attention that they actually deserve. Thus, the aim of my research paper is to fill this lacuna by investigating the relevance of relevance of museum guides in the world that is defined by the notion of new museology by taking CSMVS as a case study. I'll be also using the Ashokan Edict number 9 that was found from Nala Supara and is currently under the at the CSMVS to propose a model that will integrate the students of ancient Indian history, culture, and archaeology into the profession of museum guiding. And finally, the paper aims to offer suggestions for creating better visitor engagement strategies for the museums that will have museum guiding at their core. Next slide. So there are certain scholars in the field of museums and museum guidings who have spoken about the relevance of museum guiding as such. So Katie Best argues that museum tours are a prominent and persistent feature of museum visitor programs. Mark Shep brings out the importance of trained guides in museums. However, since the advent of technology into the space of museum education, studies on human guided tours has taken a setback. Peng and Chen observe that because technological aids are relatively cost efficient and require minimal upkeep, and they yield greater returns, many museums prefer digital guides instead of human ones. Moreover, the cost of having museum guides on a permanent basis puts a certain amount of financial and logistical stress on the museums, because of which numerous museums across the world, including India, have opted out of such a service, or they offer it on a very limited basis. Next slide. Now coming to the case study that is explored in my paper, I took this museum, that is CSMVS, also called as the Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj Vastu Sangrahalaya, or Prince of Wales Museum of Western India, as it was previously called. This museum is located in the Fort region of Mumbai, as many of us already know, and this museum felt like a good topic, felt like a good case study to explore, because it has a very vast range of visitors who come there. I conducted a visitor survey of 110 individuals, 103 domestic and 7 international, between 8th and 19th March 2023. This survey was conducted on 2 levels, first being online and the other one being offline. Both of these surveys and interviews offered me great understanding into the visitor perspective on the relevance of museum guides within the context of course, CSMVS Museum. Now, there were certain findings that came across while I was assessing the responses of the visitors. Most common reason that the visitors said that they were coming to the museums for was education. And the visitors responded that even though some of them were interested in self-exploration, a majority of them felt that museums would have, having a guide in the museum would have really helped them better understand the culture, history, and heritage that was showcased in the museum. Of the 110 individuals, 63.6% responded that they thought a guide would have helped them increase the interest in the museum. The survey also revealed that visitors did not feel technology had reached a point yet where it could completely replace the humans within the realm of guided tours. And they also said that if such a service was available, that is, if guided tours were available, they would have felt all right paying for the same. Next slide. So this, oh, okay, you can't really see. This is just a pie chart representation of it. These are the motivations. Then blue bit at the corner is the one that states that education and professional reasons were the most common reasons for people visiting the museum. Next. Teachers bringing the students, again, falls under education. This is the visitor preference for guided tours versus other modes. So an overwhelming majority said, you can't really see it, but it's 63.3, said that they wanted guided tours. Next. Regarding the question of whether they would be willing to pay for the service, you can't again see it well, but they said that the people would be okay about paying. It's on the top right corner and bottom over yellow one. It states that they are okay about paying 100 to 200 rupees for a guided tour of around 1 to 2 hours. Next. Some said they were all right paying per person. There were also certain student groups who said that they would prefer group tours to be costed that way. Coming to Ashokan Edict number 9, this is at the CSMVS and is, next slide, one of the most prized treasures that is there at the museum. It was issued by Emperor Ashoka, and it holds a lot of key information about the ancient history of Maharashtra and also India at large. I sort of classified the value of Ashokan Edict to be studied from 5 different angles, those being language, script, Buddhism, archaeology, and ancient Indian history. Unfortunately, much of the information that the museum, at the museum remains unknown, next slide, to the common public. And if we take the example of the Ashokan Edict, there is a little bit of translation that is offered along with the inscription, but it does little to help the audience's visitors truly understand what the inscription really means. So to combat this issue, a guided tour programming model is suggested in my research paper, which offers a method by which the museum can collaborate with colleges that offer the courses on ancient India, early medieval India, and Buddhist studies, such as St. Xavier's College, K.J. Somaiya Institute of Dharma Studies, Sati College, etc., and create a model or program that will allow a systematic application of the pre-existing knowledge of AIC and history to further the fundamental aim of museums, which is that of public education. What would be the purpose of such a model? An average museum visitor may not be familiar with the nuances of various artifacts, including the Ashokan Edict. Students can act as facilitators for museum education by acting as a link between the curator's knowledge and the curiosities of the visitors. By creating a system through which people can ask their questions and gain insights into the collection, the museum can promote learning that can go beyond the four walls of the museum. And the proposed procedure of functioning would be from the perspective of the educational institutions. This program can be applied on a volunteer basis or as a compulsory element. By taking up certain objects such as the Ashokan Edict as an example, as an object of discussion, students of AIC can apply their learnings from their classes in guiding the visitors through the 5 key areas that I had previously outlined. They can also speak about the epigraphical significance of the inscription and share information on what is actually discussed in the inscription by explaining the larger socio-political context during the time it was written in. Next slide. About the estimated impact of the model, such a model on the one hand would meet the demand of the visitors and on the other not require the museum to take up a lot of risks in terms of investing in raising an entire guide department. As was sort of mentioned over and over again during the course of 2 days conference, money is an important thing that a lot of museums have been struggling with. So this is a very sort of cheap way to deal with the issue at hand. These volunteers can, as I mentioned, act as museum assistants who will fill the lacuna of the need of guides in museum, and it will also allow the students to become familiar with the various fields that they could possibly explore in the field of AIC, and AIC being ancient Indian history, culture, and archaeology. It will help the visitors in gaining in-depth understanding about the edict or other objects, in contrast to them just seeing it and then walking away with surface level understanding. Next slide. Now coming to the conclusion. Within the context of a diverse land such as Mumbai, guides have an even more important role to play because of the diversity of the visitors that museums such as CSMVS have. Having docents who are multilingual can also help a wider range of audiences better engage with the exhibits. And by integrating students into the process of visitor engagement, the museum can help further its goals while helping the students contribute meaningfully to the society. This model that I have proposed in the paper aims to create a system through which visitors can ask their questions, gain insights into the museum collection, and have a healthy relationship with the museums. This will also promote learning that can go beyond the museum space as such. And through such models, the museum can also help in contributing the maintenance of relevance of museums, guides in museum spaces. Finally, the heritage of India is immensely vast and can often seem overwhelming to be tackled all at once for a simple visitor. By introducing small pathways for easing common people into approaching this heritage can help in making every Indian appreciate their culture and heritage, thereby fulfilling the fundamental duty highlighted in our constitution, that of it shall be the duty of every Indian citizen to value and preserve the heritage of our culture. So that is about it. Thank you. These are the references that I had used. Uh, Thank you. Thank you.